Hello everybody and welcome back to Odin's movie blog. I am the critic who is the cynic. Hope you're doing well, and today we're going to be talking about Solo and the Meg. So this is something that I've actually covered in previous videos, not just on my own channel but also on the Geeks and Gamers channel, but I do think this is important. Obviously you're seeing express.co.uk. Definitely not the most reliable site, but it is making a very good point, and I think it is a point that's worth talking about. So, Star Wars, more flop news as franchise suffers this embarrassment after Solo. Star Wars hasn't had the smoothest couple of years, what with multiple directors, changes, fan backlash, stars being abused, and disappointing box office receipts. And I feel like it's sad that you have to go to a site like this in order to get some at least real information and some real stories, because if you were to look at any mainstream media site, what would it be? Oh, the fans are racist. The fans are sexist. Oh, the reason why Solo didn't do well is because it came out in May. Or, oh, because the fans are racist and sexist, blah, 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 blah. Just a bunch of garbage. Ignoring the fact that this is the reason why Solo did bad. This is the reason why Solo failed. And you could say, oh, it made $400 million, or not even $400 million. It technically made $392 million, and so therefore it did pretty well. Not when it's losing $200 million because it cost that much to make, and also they don't get 100% of that total gross. But again, I've spent countless videos talking about how much studios actually make when it comes to their actual profits. But even with all of that being said, it really is just sad, because now you have a clear-cut case of a film that is critically being panned, and even the audiences are not crazy about this film, and yet guess what? It is outpacing Solo significantly in almost every single market. And why is that the case? Let's dive into it. So, let's start off first with this article. Whilst still one of the biggest franchises in Hollywood history, it's been a bumpy period in a galaxy far, far away, and now the latest movie, Solo, has suffered another minor blow. The film was reviewed reasonably well, but poor marketing was ultimately blamed for it struggling to recover its costs in cinemas, and it fell far short of expectations. And again, they will blame every single thing except for what the actual reason is, or the main reason is, which is the fandom menace, which is the backlash after The Last Jedi. They want to live in this tiny little bubble where they just believe that, no, it could not possibly be that the fans were mad. It could not possibly be that people stayed home. Yes, that's exactly what it was, because if there was no fan backlash, it wouldn't matter how bad the marketing is. People would have still gone out to see Solo. Solo would have at least been able to make a profit, would have at least been able to make a small profit at the very least. The problem is that there were people that chose not to go. $200 million worth of people chose not to go see the movie. And why is that the case? Again, if we take this honestly, and again, there can be people who are going to say, oh, you're just, missing the point. No. If you want to be honest about this, the reason why is because of the fan backlash. Period and stop. Again, can you say that there were multiple factors that led to Solo failing? Yes, you absolutely can make that point. However, you cannot deny that one of those points, and also the biggest point, the biggest reason why Solo failed, is because of that audience backlash. I'm sorry, but I cannot tell you how many people I've talked to who either didn't see it because they just came to the point where after The Last Jedi, they just didn't care. There are so many people who leave comments saying, I don't care about Star Wars anymore. I was a fan from 1977. There were people who were in the theaters in 1977 who have been huge fans of it, but because of The Last Jedi have just gotten to the point where they just don't care anymore. So that sense of apathy, that sense of not caring, that is the reason why Solo did not make money. That is the reason why it is a flop. Again, if this was just a movie that was making a very small bit of profit, we would be having a very different discussion. But the fact that this movie, again, is losing $200 million at the box office is a tragedy for the Star Wars universe. Because no one, if you had told anyone, even back during the time of the prequels, if you had told anyone that Star Wars would have lost money on a film, they would have laughed you. They would have laughed at you in the face, and you know what? I probably would have been right next to them laughing, because no one in their right mind would ever have thought that this was possible. But this is where we are now. This is the situation that we're currently in. We have a franchise that's been railroaded into the ground by terrible direction from Rian Johnson, by terrible production, by terrible leadership from Kathleen Kennedy, who has just driven this ship into the ground. By greenlighting a project like, for example, The Last Jedi, which has divided the fan base at best. Again, you can defend The Last Jedi, you can say that you like the film, but you cannot deny that it has divided the fan base pretty evenly, I would say. But even with all those things, what you see is that this franchise, which should easily make money, because of just how rich the history is, how much every single film before it has made. Just look to the $2 billion that was made by The Force Awakens, if you need evidence of that in modern times. I'm sorry, but just all the evidence points to these factors. Rian Johnson and Kathleen Kennedy. Kathleen Kennedy, again, has no idea what she's doing. She might be good at certain things. She might be good at producing certain things, but when it comes to running the Star Wars universe, when it comes to greenlighting decisions, she honestly has no idea what she's doing. For her to greenlight a movie like Solo, for example, or rather, to greenlight a movie like The Last Jedi with the script that it had, but to get into a tizzy with Lord and Miller on Solo because it was a direction that she didn't like, probably a more comedic direction that she would have liked, and then fire them and then hire someone else and then balloon the budget to the point where you're losing money, that shows you that she, again, has no idea what she's doing. She honestly is not good for the Star Wars universe. Now, again, she might be good at certain things. She's not good at this. So what needs to happen? She needs to go. Simple as that. To me, the decision, if you want to get Star Wars back on track, if you want to get people excited about Star Wars, some people are going to say, well, I'm already excited about Star Wars, and you're just part of this very small minority. It's like, if I'm a small minority, if I'm a part of a small minority of people, then how in the hell did Solo lose $200 million? You say, oh, bad marketing. Bad marketing does not lead to a Star Wars film not making money, losing $200 million. I'm sorry, but the numbers just don't back you up. The numbers do not support your argument. You can try and throw any argument that you want at me, but I will always be able to back mine up with facts and figures, specifically numbers, to show why you were wrong. And again, you can still like a bad film. You can still like the direction that the Star Wars universe is going, but you still cannot deny the facts that where it is going is not profitable and also is not popular among a lot of people. And I would say a large number of people at that. I'm sorry, you cannot make that argument. A big example or a good way that's not just looking at the individual numbers, but comparing them to other things. Let us now talk about The Meg. So, now it's been reported that The Meg, the daft shark movie starring Jason Statham that was initially predicted to be a box office disaster, has overtaken its overall lifetime gross. If you want to see that for yourselves, again, if you want to say, yeah, this is suppressed and it's a dirt rag and everything. All right, let's look at the raw numbers. The Meg, look at that. Worldwide total at this point, it's only been out for about 3 weeks now, so it still has plenty of room to make money. $414 million. This film is probably going to reach $500 million once this coming weekend is over. So this film is still making money, still has a lot of room to grow. Is it going to get it to $1 billion? Probably not, but still it's going to make a nice hefty profit on top of whatever it's going to make in any other sales. So as you see there, $414 million. And again, something I point out every single time, look at that foreign to domestic ratio, 74% to 26%. Most money on big budget films is made overseas. Compare that to Solo. Solo, which is still technically out in maybe like 20 theaters now at this point, is struggling at $392 million, which means it's guaranteed based on the fact that it's just there are not enough theaters and there's not enough money left to get this film past the $400 million mark, which means this is going to come in under $400 million. And also, look at that domestic foreign exchange. Foreign, 45.6%, domestic, 54.4%. Now, again, we can point to other films having the same ratio that have done better, but having that ratio and having low numbers is a bad thing. Again, it tells you that not only is the story weak, not only is the movie weak, but also the franchise is weak on top of that. And if you were going to tell me that a Star Wars as a franchise would be weak, without, of course, having referencing The Last Jedi, then we would be in Bizarro World because it wouldn't make any sense. For people to try and say, oh, well, it's just because Star Wars doesn't do well overseas because, you know, Star Wars is a concept and is an American icon and it's something that Chinese audiences and other foreign audiences just wouldn't understand. But then you look to The Meg and some people say, oh, well, The Meg's being run by has some connection to a Chinese company. It doesn't matter. People are still going to buy tickets to go see it. If you want to talk about something else, let's talk about Mission Impossible. I broke down those numbers in another video. Guess what? People are still going to see Mission Impossible, Bourne Identity. Again, these are all American products that are doing well overseas, where each subsequent film does slightly better and better. We have never seen a situation like this before, specifically in Star Wars, where you have a film franchise that is doing progressively worse in not only China, but also in a lot of other markets. And again, we start with The Force Awakens, $2 billion. We go to The Last Jedi, $1.3 billion. Some people again say, oh, look, it's a success. That's $700 million that it did not make in comparison to The Force Awakens. And if you honestly think that Episode 9, or 9.1, 9.2, Episode 9 versus Episode 10, whatever it is going to be, if you honestly think that Episode 9, at this point, with the numbers coming in for Solo, and also by the very fact that there are a lot of people who are pissed off still about The Last Jedi, if you think that Episode 9 is going to make over $1 billion, you are just delusional at this point. Again, unless they're able to show themselves to be going on a right track. And the way that you do that, there are two things that almost any fan who is not a fan of The Last Jedi, or who is someone who just doesn't care about Star Wars anymore, there are two names that always come up: Rian Johnson and Kathleen Kennedy. So Disney, here is your game plan. If you want Star Wars to be successful again, if you want to bring the numbers back, because again, I know it's just as much about creating a product, creating a story, creating a universe, as it is about making actual profit off of that story and off of that universe. Here is how you do it. For one, you cancel whatever trilogy it is that you originally had planned for Rian Johnson. He is obviously the person who's going to drag you down, not only because of The Last Jedi, not only because of the fan reaction to The Last Jedi, but also because of his behavior, because of the fact that he's gone after fans just for being critical of his film. You start there publicly saying, we have no longer have ties with Rian Johnson. We have no plans of making a trilogy with Rian Johnson. Make it public. Because again, if you don't make it public, it's just not going to be good. You could even have that in the plan saying, oh, well, we're not going to make that trilogy, but we're not going to tell anybody. No, let people know. Let people know that's what's going to happen. And that's the second point. Let people know that Kathleen Kennedy is either one, stepping down, or two, is being fired. If that happens, I guarantee you, and also on top of that, you guarantee that you're bringing somebody who's actually competent in to that main, to the president of Lucasfilm's chair. That is going to be a formula for you to try and get people back. But guess what? You still have an uphill climb. You still have about a year or so before, before Episode 9 comes out, and you still have a lot of work to do. Dude, even if you get someone very good, even if you somehow pull a Kevin Feige and try and say, oh, we're going to make him pull double duty, I don't think that's going to happen, but let's just say it does. Or let's say that you try and pull someone else. Let's say that you try and get Dave Filoni in charge of creative. Let's say you try and make, again, story group. That's another way to get people back. Say, hey, the story group, we're doing away with some of the story group members because they obviously had no experience in writing before we hired them, and now we realize that we made our mistake. One of the best things that you can do as a company is mea culpa. Is just say, hey, I made a mistake, we made a mistake, and we are addressing it. We are aware of the situation, and we're going to fix it. And then there's some people who are going to attack me and say, oh, I'm overblowing it. I'm sorry. If I'm overblowing it, then why did Solo lose $200 million at the box office? Why is it that that The Last Jedi made $700 million less than The Last Jedi? Than The Force Awakens. Why is it that there are so many people who are saying they're not even going to see the next Star Wars film and don't care about any news with Star Wars? There's way too much to answer for. There are way too many things that are going on. There are way too many things being talked about. And guess what? There are two things that you can do right now, Disney. Any day now, you could do them. And guess what? You would probably bring back about half of those people just by saying, Kathleen Kennedy's gone. We've brought someone competent in, and the Rian Johnson trilogy's been canceled. I'm telling you that right now. If you were to just do those two things, you would bring a lot of people back. Again, think about it. Think about your profit margins. Think about how much money you want to make, because guess what? If you keep riding this franchise, this IP, in the direction that you currently are, there's just not going to be enough money for you to make when it comes to episodes 10, 11, 12, whatever you plan on doing with the franchise. But anyway, guys, what are y'all's thoughts about this? Like, do you agree with me that these are two things that would bring a lot of people back? Maybe not you, but would you at least submit? Would you at least admit that it would bring a lot of people back if they were to fire Kathleen Kennedy, bring someone else in, and then, or at the very least cancel Rian Johnson's trilogy? Please let me know in the comments. I would really love to appreciate that. Also, who do you have in mind to take Kathleen Kennedy's place? Who do you think would have the vision to be able to bring the Star Wars universe into the future? Because again, that's one of the big problems with Kathleen Kennedy, is that she's not a forward-thinking producer. She's not a forward-thinking president of Lucasfilm. She has gone from film to film to film and just said, oh, we'll do this, and then we'll do this, and then we'll do this, and everything's different. And when you have a trilogy and you don't have a cohesive unit there, that causes problems. Not only from a narrative standpoint, but also just from a perception standpoint. So bring someone in who's actually going to be able to stay focused on that. If it has to be someone like Jon Favreau, that would be my #1 pick. Jon Favreau. Again, I know that that's what the rumor mill has been lately, is that Jon Favreau is going to be the one that's brought in. That would be great. Jon Favreau, I think, would be an excellent president of Lucasfilm. I think he would be an excellent mind to put these things together. But again, it all comes down to two things: fire Kathleen Kennedy, cancel the Rian Johnson trilogy. Anyway, guys, thank you all so much for watching. If you like this video, hit that thumbs up, hit that subscribe. It helps me out a lot. Y'all are amazing. I love you guys so much. Thank you so much for watching. Have a great day. And as always, God bless.